Welcome back, traders. We've had a very interesting week in the Forex markets. We have seen that the US dollar has actually been doing surprisingly well despite all of the bad stuff happening over there with hurricanes and all the wonderful things that good old Trump likes to say to annoy people. We've seen that against the euro, the US dollar has actually done pretty well. We can see that we have had some rebounds coming up, but the euro keeps declining against the US dollar. And just to confirm that it's not just the euro, we can have a look at the Aussie dollar, and you can see that we have a very similar sort of shape and patterns forming here, where we have these rallies against the US dollar, but it always comes down further. We have a bit of a rally, it comes down further again, and it seems relatively consistent across the board. Here I'll show you again the comparison between the two. Here we have the euro US dollar and now the Aussie US dollar. Very similar ideas. We can see retracements in the same place and coming down. But now let's have a look at the news, see what's going to be coming up this week. We have a reasonably quiet week coming up. There's not a lot of news right up until about Thursday, but let's have a quick look through. Make sure you have a pen and paper ready just so you know what to look out for. On Monday, we have 3 public holidays going on, none of which we're that worried about. Canada, maybe a little bit. Japan, that's only really affects you if you're trading the Japanese yen, and I don't know anyone who really trades in South Korea. And you'll see that we don't have any 3 bulls happening for quite some time. Nothing at all on Monday. Even though we have a few speeches by the ECB, it's no one who's going to be changing massive monetary policies, anything like that. So Monday should be fairly clear sailing. There's enough news coming out where it's not going to be a dead stagnant market, but you know, we don't have anything to worry about too much. You can see on Tuesday it's very much the same sort of thing. We have a lot of 1 and 2 bull news events coming out. That's very early morning. Let's have a look a little bit later. Over here at 10:30 we have our first 3 bull news event coming out. It's the manufacturing production month on month for August. Now, as always, make sure that you're not that interested in what the forecast is going to be, but what we're waiting for is to see what the difference between the actual and the forecast is. In many cases, the manufacturing production output is usually very similar to what they actually forecast, so we don't expect any major problems, but still, you want to shore up your positions before that happens, at least 15 minutes before. If you're in a successful trade, move stop losses into profits. If you haven't entered a trade, you might want to keep out a little bit. And if you're in a losing trade, then just make sure you don't keep pushing that stop loss further and further out. This may work for you, it may work against you. But if it's working against you, you don't want to increase that stop loss. Later on in the day, we have more news, but nothing that we need to worry about. So, even Tuesday is going to be pretty clear sailing. It's just that one little bump. We're already looking at Wednesday here, and again, there's not a lot happening. This week is going to be pretty easy. Here we see at 4 o'clock in the afternoon our time, we have the jobs opening. For all American news coming out, or at least most of it, the very important ones typically have something to do with jobs. This could be new employment, this could be unemployment, or job openings or vacancies, that sort of thing. So always look out for anything to do with jobs happening. But that's only happening in the afternoon. Most traders would have already made their money for the day, so hopefully you're not holding too many positions at that time. Again, just make sure that at about 3:30, 3:45, you're changing your stop losses, making sure things are tighter. If you're in a good trade, maybe you want to push that take profit a bit further. But you know, play it by ear, see how your trades are doing. Then again, on the same day, at 8 o'clock at night, we have the FOMC meeting minutes. Now these sorts of things make me very nervous. Whenever you see a 3 bull set, like here, especially coming out of the US dollar, and we have no figures, we have no stats to actually look at. This is typically a speech that's happening when they're going to be talking about a lot of different factors. And most of the time we'll see the markets kind of spiking up and spiking down very quickly, and it's very erratic. It's very hard to tell exactly which way it's going to go. In my personal opinion, this is the sort of time you want to stay out of the market, but if you are looking to take a slightly larger risk and make some more money, then I suggest you go to the online course and look up the NFP trading strategy. That sort of trading strategy can work very well with speeches, but just remember that this is a much higher risk to be trading, so try not to spend too much on it, but it can also be very, very profitable. We roll across to Thursday and we see that Brazil is on holiday. This is not a major currency, so we can continue trading. If the US dollar or the British pound is on holiday, we typically take the day off ourselves, but Brazil won't affect the markets too much. And again, we have nothing really serious coming up in the morning. So it's going to be easy the whole day. It actually might be a little bit quiet for us. But then at 2:30 we have the US dollar coming out with the PPI for the month on month. If you'd like to learn more about these sort of news events, just remember, go back to the online course that you can find at jpmarkets.co. And we do discuss this in quite a lot of detail. If you haven't signed up for the course, you should. It is 100% free. Here we go. At 4:30 out of Europe, we had the ECB, that's the European Central Bank President Draghi is speaking. Now the European Central Bank is, well, it's the central bank in Europe, and as you can imagine, that is a very important thing to look at. And once again, when we have speeches like this, he's not coming out to discuss one thing in particular. So we don't know if there's going to be a massive change coming up or not, or if he's just going to reflect on what's happening. But I can guarantee you that every time this man comes up and speaks, the markets go pretty haywire. So it's another time that you want to make sure that you're managing your existing trades. Try to avoid placing new trades unless you're looking at a particular strategy which can trade these news events. I refer you again to the NFP strategy. That sort of thing on a slightly smaller scale can work nicely here, but just protect your investments around these times. Here we go at 5 o'clock. Out of the US dollar, we have the crude oil inventories. Now, the American economy is based heavily in the crude oil supplies. So this is quite a big thing coming out of the United States. This is a type of news event that you could use to help determine the direction of the future markets. So definitely keep your eye on this one coming out at 5 o'clock. So yes, this coming Thursday at 5 o'clock, you definitely want to be watching out for these crude oil inventories. If you haven't hit your profit for the day, this could very well do it for you. Just keep those stop losses tight. There's nothing for the rest of Thursday. Let's move on to Friday. And again, we have very little news in the morning. And then the US dollar gives us an interesting day at 2:30. We start looking at the core consumer price index, the month on month. This is a very nice news event because it kind of gives you a nice reflection of the overall economy and how things are doing, and if there's been improvements and an increase in spending and that sort of thing, just from one news event. And at the same time, we have the core retail sale. Now, why core retail sales is important is that typically people only spend a lot of money at retail stores when they have extra cash. And so it's a good way to gauge how well are the typical American family doing. You know, if they have a lot of extra cash, then we'll see that retail sales are going up. And that generally means that the economy has been stimulated, there's more taxes coming in and that sort of thing. So it is a very good news event to be watching. If it comes out to be the same as what's expected, the forecast is 0.3%. If it comes out at 0.3% as well, then we might see a tiny little blip. It's only if there's a major difference between the predicted rate as well as the actual outcome. So keep an eye on the difference between those two. Then there don't seem to be any other major news events. So traders, besides those handful of 3 bull things coming out this week and things for you to watch out for, it looks like pretty clear sailing the whole week. There are no major public holidays. We're not looking at the US dollar or British pound closing down, so you really have no excuse but to get out there and get things going.